Welcome to a year of eternal love. Acim workbook, lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Unlike the preceding lessons, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. You will find if you train yourself to look at your thoughts that they represent such a mixture that in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, and shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise, and it will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps towards the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside of you and the meaningful within. It is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for the application of the idea of today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about blank does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on this street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful but it is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises for more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. In the insights, this is a major step forward. In each lesson, it increasingly, it's as in baby steps. We have to fundamentally start at the beginning. And it's our recognition, it states, it's our ability to separate the meaningless from the meaningful. What is the meaningless? The meaningless is the fear that we learned here. The meaningless is recognizing the split mind, which is the ego. The split mind is that it's not one with God. The ego is the ego edging God out, that will take over from here. The ego only wants the total control. It's the collection of the past experiences and has been projecting fear ever since. The meaningless that's on the outside of us are but illusions projected from our ego mind. This is why we need mind training, to heal the mind. And it's one step closer in recognizing that. It's the tiny crack needed to start recognizing that. It's very hard when we think that's the only voice we've ever heard, that's who I am. And that is not who you are. You are a divine creation of God. That we are one. But this ego mind is dedicated to the illusion of separation. That you're over there and I'm over here. And that we're separate from God. It is very hard for the ego mind to even grasp oneness. This unified field of energy. But these are the first steps into beginning beginning to much more bigger concepts that lie ahead. Stick with these. The ego will talk you out of it. I don't need mind training. Just fine the way I am. I'll get over it. Things are as they are. I don't need anything else. The ego doesn't want you to be a part of the truth. It wants you to play small. It wants you to take you a part of everything. It wants specialness. And will do anything to self-sabotage you from everyone and everything. These exercises are very important. The practice periods during the day. Even if you read this once, we have to demonstrate them, work them. We can't just know what the push-ups are. We have to do them to get the results. We have to be mentally and spiritually fit. And that's why we spend a little time every day. And we can color our world with what is the only truth. And that is of love. Thank you for joining me today. This is a year of eternal love. God bless.